Future Jam.
Welcome to the Future Jam, a tech news podcast for enthusiasts and casual listeners alike. I'm here with Alex again. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike, how's it going? So I bailed on you last week.
Life's pretty much a big, not a catastrophe, but like it's just everything's so hectic in the summertime and just family stuff comes up and also all sorts of things happen.
Yeah,
Basements flood.
Yeah, that's been like a odd month for us.
I know, nonstop like weird stuff happening. So, and then I'm going on vacation, and you were on vacation, and then some other stuff happened, and but we're back. We're back.
Yeah, we'll try to get you an episode a week for the summer. They might not be good. Well, none of our episodes are good. They might not be up to our standard of podcasting episodes, but they'll be there. Give you
you can't tell people to not listen because I think these are going to be the best episodes, Alex. I think we're going to really pump out some good stuff.
This is what we're going to be. This is where we make our mark. This is where we become.
Yeah, we're going to have turn it on one day and we're going to have 1 million listeners and we're like, what happened? Oh, because we half-assed it.
Yeah, and this is going to be up from our 500,000 listeners that we get now, so.
Well, I did get that message that we're 120 ranked 126 in New Zealand. I didn't know people even had access to podcasts in New Zealand. So my offense to you, I know, I just assumed everybody lived like Lord of the Rings there, and they all had like swords and horses and that sort of thing.
That's why I think America thinks of New Zealand, which isn't like a bad stereotype to have. I just think of Flight of the Conchords anytime I think of New Zealand, so.
Let's just jump right into it. Why don't we?
Yeah, I think we don't have dumb tech of the week. We have creepy tech of the week. Ooh.
And from kind of two different companies, and they're both, huge. Let's just go off with Google first. And Google is reportedly in a lawsuit right now, and I guess they kind of made it tricky to find like the location settings on your phone and some other like privacy settings.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So like start with the location stuff. They said like Google would even collect your location data even after you've turned off like the location tracker, which is just like weird that they would want to do it itself, like by like just to keep that on if you're turning it off. Like, I don't know what kind of data they're looking for, but it's not, I don't see them, like, I can see them wanting that ability to still be able to track you where you're going and stuff like that.
It has to be to build out their maps, like the maps feature more. Because I get like notifications like, you were just here, you want to review it and stuff like that. And I'm sure it's other like metrics for advertisements and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they also made it harder to turn off the location settings and also to turn off your, like, to update your privacy settings. They made it difficult for users to find. And I believe this because anytime you go into your phone to try to find, like, a certain setting, it is really hard to find stuff. Like, it's not, like, nothing is where it really should be and all.
Yeah, I feel like they do bury things on purpose that they don't want you to turn off.
Like, it took me forever to find. I wanted to clear my browsing history, and it took me forever to find it on my phone. Like, it should just be, like, a normal thing to find, But, like, it's like, yeah, stuff like that. It's like, it just takes forever to find, and, like, something, like, that should be under, like, change your background. No, that's easy. They make that easy. But, like,
I think this is more sounding like you don't know how to use a cell phone than them trying to purposely, nefariously hide how to change a background on it.
No, not that. That was a bad example. Let me see. I
think Samsung phones in general, we both have Samsungs, and their settings menus can be quite extravagant because they have all these additional Samsung settings on top of the Google settings that are built into the operating system. So like Samsung just kind of like just puts it in weird categories, and it's really hard to find like what they name things and where things are. I understand why some people can get confused a little bit when they move to Android, especially if all they had is an iPhone, because iPhones are pretty straightforward for the most part.
Yeah, and then the rumor was that Google pressured phone manufacturers to keep the privacy settings hidden. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they said it made it way too easy for people to just quickly turn it off and turn it back on again. Which, yeah, I kind of agree that they shouldn't have hid that stuff. But playing devil's advocate here, maybe one of the reasons they hid it is because people were accidentally turning some of these things off. And they were like getting a lot of complaints, like, how do I turn them back on again? Like if you're trying to use your GPS and your location's turned off. I don't know. That's just
I think
that's like I don't know.
I think that's their excuse. I mean, a lot of these companies, the way they make money, Facebook, Google, and all, is selling your data. So they want as much data as possible to be able to sell advertisements and things like that. So I think that's why if you turn off your turn on your privacy settings and all, like they had the same thing with the incognito mode where they were supposed to be, it didn't track you, and then they're like, well, there's no way we can't not track you. You know, Google wants to know everything that you're doing, either it's for them to sell their own data or sell your data off or use it for their own purpose.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. Like an advertisement company also running and owning the operating system that you do everything on the internet on. So, yeah, I understand like kind of like the conflict of interest, and I kind of like where the industry is going, like what Apple's doing, where they're trying to force privacy first, and I think it's forcing Google into doing the same thing. So I think they're kind of moving away from this mindset a little bit, just because the market is forcing them to.
Yeah, I think there's been so much backlash about people's privacy. I think most people are finally waking up to like what these companies have on you and all, and
yeah,
people want to be protected. Like I know these companies always said it's like, well, if you want to use the products, this is what you have to do and all. But if enough people stop using their products or switching off to a different product that's not doing that, then they'll change their ways. And I think Google is still trying to fight that. And hopefully, like, some of these other companies that are, like, moving ahead of them will kind of force them to take that. Because Google is still the most popular
it is.
servicing engine. So.
And moving on to the next company that is kind of, like, doing something creepy or has a creepy product that can, I'm not saying that it's creepy per se. I'm just saying that it can be used in creepy ways, and that's Apple. And Apple has the AirTags that were released a few months ago now. I think they've been out a couple months now.
Couple months, yeah.
But people have been using it to do different weird things that I guess Apple really didn't, intend for them to be used for.
Well, Apple thought everybody was just going to use it normally, you know, like they planned it where you just kept it on your keys. And if you lost your keys, you can find your keys. So I guess, like, I always heard that you couldn't, like, they always pictured that you couldn't put it on somebody. And
the thing is you couldn't, because if you have an iPhone and I put an AirTag on you, on your person, since the AirTags contact the iPhone in proximity, your iPhone will send you a notification saying, hey, there's an AirTag on your premises or on you, following you. So you'd get a notification even though it's not your AirTag. Yeah. And on top of that, after 3 days, the AirTag would beep like if it's not near the owner. So I guess technically you could track somebody for 3 days.
Yeah, so the issue is people with Android phones, they didn't have that option.
Yeah, so if you had an Android phone, it wouldn't notify you that you have an AirTag on you because Apple didn't have an Android app.
Yeah, so I highly doubt like people actually doing this for, I mean, some people probably doing it for bad things, but I think it was people that's checking what these AirTags can do and messing with Apple, probably messing with their friends. So Apple is changing the creepy, like the chime limit from 3 days, because that's where it's at now, to somewhere between 8 and 24 hours. It would start making. I
still think that's a long time. Yeah, you could track somebody for 8 hours, or up to a day.
Yeah. And then they're making an app for the Android to do the same thing that the iPhone would do. So
I wonder if the Android app is just going to be for just alerting you, because I doubt. Do you think they're really going to build into the Android phones the ability to use these as they're intended, or do you think it's just an alert app?
I think it'll just be an alert app.
Why would you download that unless you're a paranoid person? Like, do you think everybody will just download this app because they're worried that somebody stuck an AirTag on them?
Probably. I mean, if it's not like taking up much room on your phone, why wouldn't you?
And I guess if people are listening, they don't know what AirTag is. It's just like a little tiny puck. We've talked about it in previous episodes, but basically it tracks where things are. So if you lose them, you can find it. Pretty cool, but this technology has been around for a long time, and Apple popularized it.
Yeah, and the whole thing was supposed to be safety and all, but somebody's always going to find a way around it.
Yeah, one of the guys I work with, he had one and put on his keychain, and his keys were huge. I'm like, I don't know how you would ever lose your keys. I'm like, have you ever lost your keys before? He's like, no. I'm like, why do you need it? This is the biggest lump of keys I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, we all know, Mike, you do like your keys tied to a cinder block, so you can never lose them.
I really, honestly, have not really lost my keys in my adult life as far as I can remember.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. So that's why I just never really think of an AirTag being a useful feature, because I don't really have anything I would stick it on.
So we lost my wife's spare car key for 2 years. We could not find it. And then my brother calls me out of the blue hey, we're getting rid of some old jackets. I found your wife's your spare car key in the jacket pocket.
That's funny.
It was 2 years. God. Yeah, I don't know. This is another product that people think they need, but I don't see the point. But yeah, don't put them on people. That's what we say at the Future Jam. Stop tracking people, following people.
Yeah, stop tracking people, because it's just uncouth. I say.
Unless you're doing it to mess with your friend.
I guess it would be useful to my grandpa. He's kind of losing it a little bit. I guess it would be useful to put it on my grandpa and track him around. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I can see it for that, but that's what I don't think people are using it for.
I think there's specialty products for that, but I kind of am curious about the legality around it. But yeah, you ready to jump into the tech news bites?
Yeah, let me get my timer started.
Tech News Bites.
In case people don't know, Tech News Bites are 2 minutes long, but sometimes a little bit longer.
Yeah. And somebody complained about the timer noise that needs to be louder. That would be my brother, Pat. I tried to look up a new timer, and it wanted me to pay for with the sound I wanted, and I said, F that, we're just using the timer that we always use.
To be fair, I kind of edited it out at times because it cuts into. I edit out the background noise a little bit.
Boo, boo. Everybody's booing at once, Mike. People love the timer.
I think Pat's probably sending me a rude email right now. You could direct all rude emails to thefuturejam@gmail.com.
Okay, let's go. Start with the first one.
All right, Microsoft is putting Xbox in TVs. It's on TVs right now. You plug an Xbox into it, but I guess they're building it into TVs.
Yeah, so this is exactly...
Is this exciting? Is this exciting stuff right here?
I mean, it could be a game changer. This is exactly what Stadia was by Google, right? But that failed horribly and just went under.
It still exists.
It exists, but they don't update anything like that. But it's exactly what it is. So Microsoft is going to start building own TVs, putting this in maybe have a Chromecast type thing, a little dongle that can go in the current TVs. And then, because they also have the Game Pass that they have now.
Yeah.
And so you really would just have to buy the controller, and then you would have access to Microsoft games, Xbox games.
Yeah, so basically it would be an app where you could stream the games directly to your TV or onto a streaming stick of sorts, kind of like a Roku TV or something like that.
And Microsoft is really thinking that the future of gaming is cloud gaming. And I don't know if that's true. You're seeing with the newer systems, like how big they have to be for the fans to cool them.
Yeah.
With how powerful they are now. So maybe this is a way they can get around it.
Yeah. I released a whole episode excited about cloud streaming video games, and I was sorely disappointed at how bad it was. Well, I have so internet, but what were you going to say, Alex?
No, I know like that's part of the issue is people like internet and things like that, but Microsoft is updating a bunch of the data centers around the world. They're saying by the end of the year they should all be updated to increase the power of this cloud gaming.
Oh yeah, I've been through the Microsoft Cloud update cycle. Our whole company was pretty much like they moved all of our data over to a different system, and it was a pain in the butt. I'll say that much. Next up is self-driving Waymo trucks to haul loads between Houston and Fort Worth, Texas.
Woo! Yeah, so I know nothing about the roads in Texas. I know it said this I-40.
I think they're just really straight. That's probably why they're testing it there.
Well, that's why Waymo's in Phoenix, right? It's kind of straight and flat, kind of building out their driverless car system in Phoenix right now. Yeah. So, but they are working with JB Hunt Trucking.
Yeah, I've seen them on the road.
So, they're going to do Class 8 tractors. They'll still have drivers in the car and Waymo technicians, but...
So they're going to have more than just... So it's like, this is autonomous, but we have like a driver and 2 technicians, and they're typing out things, I guess.
Yeah, but you have to learn to walk before you can run, Mike. This is...
That's true.
I mean, there's a truck driver shortage. That's why you see like a lot of advertising for truck drivers. And this is really what people think the first use of like autonomous cars or trucks would be, is delivering goods, especially if
I think so.
Like if you're just moving it from like one warehouse, the factory to a warehouse, and you can just program it to do the same stretch of road every day. Like it's the future. This is what you're gonna see. Because right now I know a lot of truck drivers complain about the regulations that they have in place. Like they have to take certain breaks and all at certain times. These trucks wouldn't have to. They can just keep going. And
so guess what, truck driver? You don't have a job anymore, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about those breaks you have to take.
Yeah. I know. I think we would still need them for like cities and things like that. Yeah. But this would be like
for at least 20 years.
Oh yeah, we've got a long time. I know Canada's looking really into this. I've seen like articles about them.
All right, let's jump into the next 2. This is a smash up because the 2 Apple stories and.
Hold on, I wanted to change the timer to 3 minutes for this one.
Oh wow, fancy.
Go.
There was an Apple event, and we missed a whole bunch of things while we were gone, but we're trying to play catch up here, and nothing too important. But yeah, the Apple event, they announced a new operating system, Monterey. What I found most interesting about it, Alex, is that they're actually releasing some features for the new M1 chips, and those features aren't compatible with the Intel Macs. And I put a list real quick. Apple Maps, the new 3D interactive globe, not capable on the Intel. Object capture for AR, not capable on Intel. Siri, other languages, not capable on Intel. So I think what Apple's trying to tell everybody is they're not going to be supporting Intel for forever.
Now they're moving on, but part of this Monterey thing is like they want universal control. So I think they're gonna just move everything to like these M1 chips and kind of be able to, you can control everything. Like you can control use a keyboard and a mouse to control your iPad and MacBook Pro and all. And I think they're setting it up to have all the stuff on these one chips that's made by them.
Yeah.
And like doing the Apple thing where everything is just Apple products.
That just sounds more confusing than anything else, though. Like their thing with universal control, where like if you have an iPad next to your Mac, that you can move the mouse between the iPad to the Mac and back to the Mac to the iPad. Why would you do that? I don't know. I guess it's useful.
you want to be a villain in a movie, and you're going through different screens and all.
Yeah, like how many different things are you needing to be connected to at once?
Yeah. I don't know. I found like the other top story more fascinating is FaceTime is coming to PC and Android via web app. So
Whoa.
this is clearly just a shot at Teams and Zoom and all. I'm wondering if Apple lost out on a ton of
People
business.
using it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little bit too late. I feel like everybody's already kind of like settled into like whatever they're using.
Yeah. So yeah, because you can have shareable links, you can schedule calls with people, you can share, play, watch, and listen to the same TV show at the same times. Yeah. All stuff like every other product can use. But now Apple's like, well, maybe it's about time we reach out to Android stuff. They're not just going away like we thought they would.
It's just another way for Apple to humiliate people who don't own Apple products, because you're not actually getting a full functional product here. You're just getting a link to access a meeting. So it's like, hey, you don't have this, but your friend who's richer than you and better off and more handsome and whatever, join his FaceTime call.
It sounds like you're jealous of one of your friends, Mike. It's not me, because I don't have Apple products anymore.
All right, we're jumping into the next one. Airlines say passengers and their baggage are getting heavier, and they're responding with new safety plans. They didn't really say what the safety plans are. They just told airlines kind of get on top of this. I'm not sure what they're doing. Maybe telling passengers to like run around, take a couple laps around the airport. I don't know.
Yeah, so the FAA is the one who's wanting these airlines to do this. They last time they did this was back in 2005, so it's been a decent amount of time that they have to update their security procedures.
Yeah.
The airlines are saying that people are up on an average weight during the summer to 182 pounds, and during the winter to 87 pounds, which is like 8 pounds more than they were before.
I think I saw like a 10 to 15% increase of weight overall. I think this is due to COVID and inactivity and people just staying at their house and not getting out. Yeah.
So, like, the rumors are going to have less people on flights. I think you'll see a couple of things. I think, because right now the standard weight limit is, 50 pounds for a check bag, and then they'll, charge you more. So I think they might use that as a way to lower that to, 45 pounds or 40 pounds.
Yeah, they'll find out different ways to do it. Because if they don't, they'll have to bump people from flights or, tell people to check their bag or whatever.
Yeah, or they're going to use that as an excuse to raise prices to say, we can't have as many people on flights. But you're also the ones that made seats a lot smaller so you can cram a lot more people on. So I don't think much will come of this. But I just think they're going to use it as an excuse to somehow charge us more for something. I
just can't wait for them just to roll out those scales and have passengers sit on the scales and charge them by the weight. They proposed that a couple times, and people are just. I don't think that's ever going to happen. People would just revolt, I feel like.
No, that's just some skinny asshole in a board meeting, what we should do. Yeah, okay. Who cares?
All right, next story. The pandemic was the bloodiest year for driving in over a decade. And this is something I did actually not see coming. I would not have anticipated this. But I thought last year was going to be probably one of the safest years on the roads. But they said road deaths jumped 7.2% in 2020 from the year before, hitting a 13-year high.
Yes. 38,680 people died in vehicle crashes last year. That was in despite of a 13% drop in people driving. But they had news stories during the year, people getting arrested for driving 120, 130, especially early on when no one was on the road. People were just driving like jerks.
So do you think it's just people were just speeding because nobody was on the road, and that's just what people were doing?
Yeah.
I do know I got a ticket during the quarantine, and nobody was on the highway except for me, and I just, when there's no cars next to you you judge your speed based on cars next to you, because a lot of times you just drive and not really pay attention to the speed. You just drive what the traffic's doing, and I guess I was going 15 over. I just didn't realize it and got a ticket. So,
Yeah, because you don't have the people who's driving slow checking you and things like that.
it's almost like traffic stops fatalities because people are driving so slow.
And they said there was like an intake of drinking and driving and reckless driving.
How are they drinking and driving? I didn't know a lot of bars were open that late and that sort of thing.
You can drink at your buddy's house and then
That's
go.
true. Yeah.
But I also wonder if they were closing bars early in a lot of places, if like more people were out.
Oh, yeah, you're
Driving.
right. They were closing bars earlier, so I wonder if that caused an increase in deaths because people would leave at 10 when the roads were still a little bit busier than usual. Because usually they'll let the bars out at 1, and the only people out at 1 are people leaving the bars usually.
Yeah.
The last one we got up here is United Airlines plans to add 15 Boom Supersonic jets to its fleet. And I thought this was really cool because we haven't had like a supersonic jet since how long ago? Probably 20 years, I would say. The Concorde.
Yeah, since that went away, we really don't have any.
I think if you ask people, a lot of people never knew that there was like a passenger airline that flew like supersonic speeds. But it was pretty amazing for the time, and we haven't had one for 15 years. There's this company. I wouldn't say it's a startup, but I guess it kind of is. It's a company called Boom, and they're making a plane called Overture. They haven't actually built one yet, but they're in the design phase. And I guess United wants some, and a couple other airlines throughout the world want these planes, just because they reduce like flight time by 5 to 10 hours, depending on like where you're going.
Yeah, so like if you went from Newark to London, it'll be 4 hours instead of 7. San Fran to Tokyo, 6 hours instead of 11. Yeah, so like it's kind of interesting because it's like a lot of airlines are getting in. United is thinking their first flight would be in 2029. The big thing is like they want them to be net zero carbon flights. So they would use like a sustainable aviation fuel. So these would be like the next generation of planes.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully like they can get off the ground and like like they can do everything that they say. Or I guess we have regulations against people going faster than the speed of sound, and that would be a sticking point. So they would have to get approval.
Well,
to be able to do this.
That's why a lot of these are overseas flights, because they can do that over like the ocean, but you can't fly supersonic over like land because that can damage people's hearing and break windows and that sort of thing. Because when you go through that sonic boom, it's loud.
So it'll be interesting if they can actually do everything that they want to do. But yes, United and Air Tokyo, Air Japan is like another one that's invested really heavily into them. Those big airlines backing
It feels
this.
like they're all like kind of trying to invest as much money as they can in all these weird random startups just to try to get on the next big thing.
Makes sense. I mean,
So-
they haven't been doing like anything else for the past 30 years.
Yeah, airlines
Besides-
really haven't changed for the most part. Like, I think, like you said, over the last 30 years, the biggest thing is you got better infotainment systems in your seat, and that's about it.
Your seats got smaller, your price went up, your baggage fees went up.
You got Wi-Fi on the airplane.
Oh, yeah.
You got Wi-Fi, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for supersonic flight. I would do it just to fly that fast. I wouldn't even. I'm like, I'm going to fly right back again. I'm not even going anywhere.
I think if you're over there, you would do it. Go somewhere.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just. I already told the listeners that I'm flying there and flying right back just for the joy of the supersonic flight. That's all I'm doing.
Okay, you hear the first. In 2029, Mike will be the first one on the flight.
I didn't say I was the first one.
Nope, you'll be the first one on the flight, representing the Future Jam, doing a live record.
On the plane, yes.
Yep.
It'll be great. So, all right, let's jump into our summer series, and we'll see if we continue this or not. But
We've done 2.
Whoa.
And we're not doing one next week.
huge series. And basically the summer series has been like how COVID has changed industries and, other things for the better, I guess, or not really for the worse, but, just kind of change things.
How industries have adapted and survived, and what the pandemic has forced them to do.
Yeah, so this week we're just kind of briefly talking over how COVID has affected manufacturing. And for the longest time, we shipped like a lot of our manufacturing overseas. And I guess we didn't really see a huge issue with that for a while now. And when COVID hit, that was like a big, I guess that kind of threw a wrench in that sort of plan.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand the supply chain.
No,
it
was being globalized.
You don't see the supply chain. You see the finished product at your store online. So, I think the pandemic really showed people what the supply chain does. I mean, you're seeing that with chips for all your electronic devices. And we saw that in the healthcare industry where, we had a shortage of masks and medical supplies because we were getting those from overseas. So a big push in manufacturing now is going to be local. And there was already kind of a movement to go local with this stuff because automation is making it cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that manufacturing. I think you're going to see in manufacturing is you're going to see a lot more stuff come back, which is good. It won't be as many jobs as it was before, but with automation. But
there's going to be like more jobs, like even setting up these factories with automation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like behind the scenes things. But you're right. Like for the longest time, we were just relying on all these other countries to do this. And I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, if we ever, God forbid, went into another war, we wouldn't have chips to power anything because we don't really manufacture those here. So the idea those things are just as important now as like oil was 50 to 100 years ago. So chips are just one of the most important things, and we don't make them at a high enough quantity in America for to be useful.
I know we talked about it over the past couple of weeks with all the big tech companies wanting the government to put in $50 billion in the chip production, and Intel building factories out in Arizona. I think people are seeing that we need that production here. But that's production for everything. Once that supply chain gets cut, that was a big problem. And you're finally seeing the effects now with prices going up because we were able to get by on a lot of supplies over the past year, but now prices are going up. But when you had these outbreaks of COVID in these random areas and random countries that you don't think they're going to affect you, and supply chains got shut down.
Yeah.
And another big thing that...
The canal? Remember the canal?
Yeah. That was silly.
It was just a whole bunch of nonsense happening at once.
Yeah. And a big thing that the pandemic showed is that these manufacturing factories have to be more fluid. They have to be able to change. A lot of these factories that we do have now just specialize in doing one thing. And if there's no need for that one thing, they kind of serve their purpose. But they need to be able to be set up that they can move on to something else or advance their product and keep adapting, which would hopefully keep these factories afloat.
And that's kind of like what Tesla is kind of leading the charge with it right now, because I think Tesla is just so quickly building out their factories and then coming up with unique ways to design and build out their cars. And I think a lot of companies are kind of looking at things in that mindset where we need to redesign how we build things, make it so it's more autonomous, and 3D printing's taking off a lot. So you'll see that used, and then you can also 3D print factory parts and that sort of thing. So I feel like everything is just becoming easier to do now, So that's why they're starting to move things back, because they used to have to outsource this stuff overseas because the labor was so cheap there, and autonomous labor is about the same cost, I would assume. So that's probably another reason why a lot of this stuff's moving back. So yeah, you have anything else to add? But I just thought this was a cool, quick thing to cover, just because I think it's important. And without COVID, we probably wouldn't have accelerated this process to the degree that we are.
No, I think it's interesting. I think a lot more. What COVID did is opening a lot more people's eyes to like what we actually make here in America, and like it was kind of sad like when like the production of masks, like we had to wait on China to get them, and like why can't we just make those here and things like that. Like I think that's really woken people to like the need to have local manufacturing.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast with the Ford CEO, and he was talking about how they just didn't actually like have a lot of these chips like already pre-purchased. Like they kind of just like, rely, like the factory will have them when we need them, we'll just buy them. And they didn't have like they didn't pay for all these orders way ahead of time, and they didn't manufacture get these things manufactured fast enough, and they didn't really control like where their chips came from and who made them really. They were just too reliant externally. And like a lot of these companies are learning they can't be so externally reliant on all these like third party companies, because, you know, you never know when they're, you know, not going to be able to provide the products.
Yeah, I know that's like even further down the line in like the supply chain is raw materials, raw minerals is like a big thing now.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are saying the U.S. needs to invest heavily more into. And that's like what Russia and all is doing, and it's what you need to make these products. And a lot of people are thinking that's the future that we need to start looking at.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll get there. I think oil was the big thing in the past. I think everybody was really pushing for America to drill for oil, remember? And I think with renewables, I kind of don't hear that as much as I used to about us drilling for our own oil.
You do.
I think it's quieted down a little bit.
Well, they opened up a lot of it on the offshore drilling.
Yeah. And also gas prices going up. I think people are going to start complaining again soon. Or hopefully move to electric when those are good enough. But all right, you want to jump into our final segment?
Yep.
All right. We don't have a tech RIP, or I don't know. We've changed the name of this segment so many times, but this is tech that's being sent to the retirement home, and Microsoft announced before they even revealed Windows 11, mind you, that the end of Windows 10 is approaching, and that's October 14th, 2025. Why did they have to pick like an exact date like that far out, like October 14th, 2025?
I think Microsoft is getting to the point where they're just kind of like putting their foot down, like, hey, we're giving you this date. We're no longer like being the ones who are like, yeah, we'll still service you, we'll still help you out. You know, kind of, they're getting more like the Apple approach where like, we're just done. Well, this is no longer service on this date. If you need to update, my company just updated to Windows 10. So
yeah, I remember. They were doing that right when I was leaving. I kind of feel like they're going the same route as Apple, where they're going to switch like what type of chips they use and like basically the whole fundamentals of the operating system. So we'll see. But yeah, I think they're slowly doing away, because Windows 10 still has like all the stuff from Windows 7 and Windows XP. Like Windows hasn't really fundamentally changed in so long, and I can't wait to see what they do with Windows 11. We'll cover that on this show, obviously, but
so just looked up the initial release date of Windows 10.
It was 7 years ago, I think, right?
Yeah, July 15th, 2015. So that would be 10 years by the time it's ran its course, and that's a pretty good run for operating system.
Yeah, 10 years is good because usually they change out. They used to do it like every 2 to 3 years, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think that's when they had so many bugs in it.
Yeah.
Because as we talked about it, whether like one really good one and one really crappy one and a good one, and so I wonder if they're just like because Windows 10 is fine, it's good, and like what they announced a couple weeks ago, they're getting rid of Explorer. Now everything's on Edge, and they gave like people like a year and a half to get their
stuff
figured out.
Yeah, their stuff figured out. So yeah, they're giving a lot of people notice. They did say when Windows 10 came out, this would be a 10-year support cycle, so they weren't lying. But they also did at the same time say that Windows, like, they weren't going to release any more new versions of Windows. It was just going to be like Windows 10, and they were just going to update Windows 10 from there on out. But I think they changed their tune because that's like not like feasible.
Well, yeah, technology gets better over time, and I think they kind of realized that with releasing back then technology was moving so fast, and I think we kind of hit like the point, especially with these operating systems, we kind of hit a wall with like how much they can update. Yeah,
Windows 10 is pretty much, I think, plateaued. It's about as good as it's going to be. I'm curious to see what's going to be next, honestly.
I can tell you what's going to be next. Windows 11.
Windows 11. It's going to be more programs running in Windows. Wow. Mind-blowing. You heard it here first. So, that's our show for today. You can catch us on the Future Jam on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Call us at 513-BOT-COLA. Leave us a message and tell us how we're doing, or give us a show idea or whatever. Also, later this month, maybe next month, we're going to do a whole Q&A show where we're just going to take questions and from the listeners out there. So
I forgot we talked about this, and I was thinking like, I don't remember this, and I was like, oh, we did talk about this, but that was like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, life's been a blur. It's hard to keep up. We barely even had a show this week because I'm going on vacation soon. And we're going to have a show next week. Next week, we're going to talk summer vacation tech. So tune in for that. That's going to be exciting. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm not going to sleep until the episode comes out.
That's like a week and a half. I think that's a world record, maybe.
Yeah, well, I think we were kind of planning on. We were kind of leaning on skipping one episode this month. But like last week, Mike was out of town for work, and then my grandmother passed away, so I had to go out of town. So that's why there was no episode last week. So we're kind of trying to get 2 episodes in this week to record this week, so Mike can go on vacation, and I have to worry about the Future Jam.
Wow. Behind the curtain. You're just like laying it all out there.
People want to hear about life. All Mike's wife does is complain about how much Mike talks about the Future Jam when he's at home. It's all he worries about.
I don't think I've ever really mentioned the Future Jam, and unless it's like, hey, remember we're recording tonight, and my wife would be like, okay, thanks. I wanted to do something.
You still live here?
You still live here. Yeah, early on, she was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I'm going to sit down there and watch you guys record. Now she's like, oh, yeah, who cares? Future Jam, whatever.
Just don't wake me up when you come in the bedroom. That's good.
Yes.
Turn on that light.
Don't ever let me listen to this show accidentally, possibly. So, yeah. All right, that's the show for this week. We'll catch you next week. Have a great summer vacation if you guys are going on one as well. I know I'll enjoy mine.
Have a good one.